setting to record. So this meeting will be recorded for those who are not able to attend. And then over to you, Stephanie.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited to see some faces I haven't seen in months and months and months. So how awesome is this that we're all able to come together virtually? For those of you that I haven't met or we haven't worked together very closely, I'm Stephanie Ingersoll, Marketing Director for the Queen Creek Unified School District. And I am the proud president-elect for ASPRA. So it is an honor to be a part of this organization. Thank you, huge thank you to Don and Matt for putting together such a phenomenal program. They work very hard to make sure that the content is what you guys need and are looking for. So just be sure to send them a thank you when you can. You know, I don't want to throw Richard under the bus, but he didn't really give me what he wanted me to say at the beginning of this conference or this meeting. But I know we have announcements at the end, but I just want to tell you guys, I hope you saw the email about our summer conference, that it will be virtual this year on June 10th. So more information will come about that. But again, Don and Matt are just rocking that as well. So shout out to them. That is all I have. So I will turn it over so that you guys can begin the program.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Appreciate that. And thank you everyone for being here today. I want to just a couple reminders is that if you are on Twitter and want to tweet about what you're learning today and the networking and share on there, please use the hashtag AZSchoolPR and get some tweets out there. I believe we'll probably pick another person that tweets during the session to give some swag away from Social School for EDU. So we'll look for those after the meeting. And let's see if we had any other reminders. I think that's it for now. We're going to get into our sponsor. I want to thank Finalsite for being our sponsor for this meeting. We have Morgan and Josh on the call today, and I'm going to hand it over to them. If you've been to NSPRA or been around NSPRA, you probably know Josh or have seen him. He's all over the place and did the road to NSPRA and everything there on Twitter. So it's great to have him here, and now he's part of Finalsite. So we look forward to that relationship, and I'm going to pass it over to them. Thanks, Morgan and Josh.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction, Matt, and thank you, Stephanie. And just realized that Jim Cummings is in the room, and so my thoughts are with you all for, having to, I'm just kidding. I love Jim. But yeah, so am I able to share my screen? Probably need permission. It's okay. Okay, good now. It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let me just quickly, I'm going to make you a co-host and you should be able to share.
Great. Yeah, it looks like I have it now. Okay. Actually, Morgan, do you want to give it a shot? Still, let's see.
I'm not a co-host, so I'm not able.
Okay.
We can talk, Josh. It's okay. We don't need a screen.
Actually, just 1 second here. It looks like it's my computer.
I've made you a co-host as well, Morgan. So
okay.
Yeah.
Should work.
Awesome. Thank you, Morgan.
I got it. All right. So Josh, do you want to start?
Yeah. So thanks for the great introduction, Matt. I really appreciate the time today. Really looking forward to partnering with you. When I joined Finalsite a little over a month ago, I left school PR, was recruited by Finalsite, and they said, well, what states do you want? And I said, well, I want Oklahoma, because that's where I'm from, Illinois, Arizona, and Missouri. So those are my key, what we call power states. And mainly because I know a few of you in Arizona, but also I've been went to Sedona about six months ago, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, just happy to be here. Morgan is also from School PR. Do you want to introduce yourself, Morgan?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Morgan. I just joined Finalsite about a month ago as well. I'm the new director of communications there. I came from School PR too. I live in the Chicago area. So I was the chief communication officer for a large elementary district prior to joining. So it's really great to be among peers and share experiences with all of you and share a little bit about what we do. So you may think when you saw our branding today that we're a totally different company now, but we just went through a whole rebranding process. So you may not recognize us just by our look alone. We went through this rebranding over the winter to better align our image with who we are as a company. We're a very modern, innovative, vibrant company, and our old brand just didn't match that. So if you see this new grapefruit is what the color is, I know some of you think it's pink, but our CEO really is against the word pink. So we're trying to call it grapefruit. Grapefruit and gray is our new look. So we just want you to know that we've rebranded, but we're still the same final site underneath.
Yeah.
John,
So
who we are.
yeah. So a little bit about Final Sight, and as you guys know, we're making ourselves known inside the public school market. But Final Sight has actually been around for over 20 years. It was founded by John Moser. He was doing it for fun, and it's developed into a company that we have over 5,000 school districts across the world. We're in over 100 countries. And so, yeah, we have close to 500 public school districts. I think we have a few in Arizona, and so that's great. In terms of what we offer obviously a CMS website, extremely intuitive. I used it as a client in my school district. Did a lot of shopping. I had used Drupal prior to, and the CMS is extremely intuitive, and that's important because I was able to kind of take some of the tasks that I typically did on Drupal and outsource that to my team because it was intuitive and easy to understand. And so happy to show anyone that. If you wanted to hop on a call, I can show you a little bit about it. And terms of mobile app, we do have a mobile app that's you don't have to update anything with the mobile app. It's all dynamic and comes from the CMS. And so the changes you make on your website automatically go to your mobile app. We offer push notifications, and we're about to offer text messaging, which we'll talk about in a minute, and voice, and a few other features that we'll share once we release them. Yeah. So in terms of what's coming in 2021, as you guys know, right now recruitment is important. Public school districts are losing, teachers. We're losing students to charter schools and that type of thing. And so one of the things that Final Sight is really good at is that inbound marketing approach. It kind of sounds unfamiliar to work in school PR, but as we all know, families have more choices. And so we actually have the tools already developed to help that recruitment process, especially with your teachers, your substitute teachers. And so happy to hop on a call and show you those. I think you'll be impressed. And earlier I mentioned SMS text and voice. Those are coming. So really excited about that. Those will probably be 2 or 3 months away. So happy to share those. All-in-one communications. I just talked about those, but this is a little preview of our app. It's similar to some of the other things you see, but again, it's dynamically populated in from the website. Spent a lot of time developing it, so it's not just something we rolled out to be like others. It's something we put a lot of thought into. Next slide.
So just one other thing I think is really awesome about Final Sight that you may not know is we're really huge into free professional development opportunities. If you are an NSPRA member, you may have seen that we're doing a webinar series with NSPRA that starts in just a couple weeks on messaging in times of change. Josh and I are presenting the first session actually on internal communications and helping staff through times when they're anxious and overwhelmed. So this is a free 4-week series. We also have a full day that's a free conference called School PR Day. And that's going to be Friday, April 23rd. So mark your calendars for that. It's going to be a really fun day, totally free, just full of information that will help you do your job better. And if you're not familiar with our blog, it's a really great resource. It's all free again. So some of the things that we have up there right now that you might be interested in is the best public school websites of 2020 and digital trends driving the future of school communications. So we linked it there in case you are interested in checking it out.
So we'll wrap up here. I just want to say a few more things, Morgan. Talking to a few folks in Arizona right now, and one of the things about the final site culture and really my style is if someone calls me and they get a demonstration and we talk and you're not a fit for final site or we're not a fit for you, then that's okay. It's all about honesty and just making sure it's the right fit. Not a hard sell. I don't do that. It's not my style, and it's about relationships for me. Obviously, I want to get new clients, but it's all about
Good. How are
the fit.
you?
So you can you can follow me on Twitter if you'd like. You can send me a message. Easy to reach. And I really want to thank you again, Matt and Stephanie, and the rest for allowing us to raid your presentation today.
Yeah, really great to be here. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh and
Bye.
Morgan,
Yeah.
both. And thank you, Final Site. And so we will send out Josh and Morgan's contact information to the listserv. And so if any of you have follow-up questions or want to touch base and get a demonstration, you will have both their contact informations and some more details in the email. So thank you again to Final Site for sponsoring. We're talking to them about being at our June conference as well. So we look forward to seeing more of you guys, Josh and Morgan. And
Yeah.
before I hand it over to Dawn to introduce our next panel, I just wanted to share a celebration and ask for a celebration. And if you noticed something unusual this morning, that's Zach Fountain is not on this call. He's basically Mr. Aspra. And so we're missing him, but it's for a good cause. Him and his wife, Stephanie, just had a baby Henry. So they are doing well and they send their best, and just wanted to give a shout out to Zach, and you can email him and send him your wishes. So I want to pass it over to Dawn now.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you to Josh and Morgan as well. We appreciate you being here with us today. So something that I love about Aspra is the community and the fact that people are willing to share their experiences, what's worked, and what they've learned along the way, which I know is incredibly supportive for people who are joining School PR for the first time. And for those of us across Arizona, we're in such a wide variety of sizes of districts, sizes of our support teams. And I think I'm safe in saying that a lot of us get a lot of value out of and inspiration out of looking at what other districts are doing. I think this year has been even more of a demonstration of that, as we've all faced things, experiences, circumstances that even those of us, not including me, I'm still a rookie, but even those of us who've been doing school PR for decades, I'm sure there was still some surprises. And I know for a fact that the Aspra listserv has been incredibly supportive to many of us. So in that vibe, we are going to have two panels today featuring Aspra members, and we're going to be inspired and learning from each other. We picked two panel topics that we think will be relevant to all of us in Aspra. The first one is going to be around enrollment campaigns. I know that that's an issue that all of us face every year, and this year in particular. So we thought it would be great to hear from 3 different districts in different areas of Arizona to get some, to hear about their campaigns. I'll be emceeing, asking some questions, and there'll also be an opportunity at the end of the panel to open up to the floor for you guys to ask questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat, and Matt will be looking for them as well. So without further ado, we have, I'm really excited. We have Erin Helm from Kyrene on our enrollment panel. We have, apologies if I mispronounce, Carla Escamilla and Leslie Leonard from Tucson Unified. And we have Emily Wazalek from Crichton Elementary. So I'd love to start this by inviting each of you to share with us all a bit about this year's enrollment campaign for your district or a recent campaign, you are all co-hosts. So if you want to share the screen and show us anything on your websites or wherever, you can do that. I'm going to go around all three of you and then we'll get into some questions. So let's start with you, Erin. Welcome.
Hi, thanks. So yeah, this was a tricky year because obviously we still have to promote enrollment, and probably more so now than ever. But I would say we're probably doing the same things we've always done. But one thing that we did is we shifted our timing, because I don't know about you guys, we usually jumpstart enrollment promotion like in September and then start going hard in October. And it just, at least for our community, felt a little bit tone deaf, because some of them are mad at us and asking, like, they didn't know what they wanted to do in November, let alone what they wanted to do next July, August. So the problem is, for me, when I build my budget in the summer, I front load most of our enrollment marketing dollars into the fall, with like maybe a little bit set aside for that kindergarten boost in the summer. So this year, one thing we did strategically differently, even though we're doing the same things, is we did less and we started later, and we're saving some for a bigger spring summer push when we're hoping that people are more in a headspace to make a fall decision. The risk with that is if our neighboring districts or charters, and they are going hard in the fall, especially, I don't know if you guys, I get a postcard from Basis once a week in Ahwatukee where I live. So they stayed on that same timeline. So I do feel like there's a little bit of a risk there, but it just seemed for our Kyrene community that the best thing to do is to wait and hold some of those dollars back, so that we're not finding ourselves in spring and summer going, wow, we really wish we could promote now, and we've run out of budget for it.
Okay, thank you, Erin. And Carla and Leslie from Tucson Unified, how is your enrollment campaign looking this year?
Good morning. So we, like everybody, have had to do things differently. Obviously, no in-person events. So we've focused on how do we take advantage of the virtual opportunity to meet and reach out to more people. So we've done things like forums where we highlight some of our different programs with some of the leaders. So for dual language, for CTE, for our pre-K programs, and put those out as a Zoom event, but we share them over Facebook Live. And we've gotten some really good interactions because it allows people to post any questions while we're actually live. And each of those run about an hour, and we've done, gosh, probably 10 of those since November. So that's been really positive for us to get people to understand the programs. The other thing that we've really done differently, and then Carla has some other things she's going to share, is how to create virtual open houses. Because like most people, we kick off January, February with open houses, kinder roundups, all of that. And so we've done, all of our 88 schools have each done a virtual open house that we promoted, and families were able to come and learn more about the programs. But within that, we have created virtual tours. And so for a large majority of our schools, I can't say we've gotten to all of them yet, where one of the leaders of the school talks about some of the programs. We show the different parts of the schools and the specialty areas of the schools. And then we get the parents and or students to talk and about why they think the school is great. So that has been really well received, because you're really hearing from the kids about the culture and why they love it. And we feel like that's been really helpful to some of our schools that have seen some differences in enrollment this year, because as Tucson Unified, we have been fully remote and we are not going back until the end of March. So it's a little different than some of the other school districts that have already been on campus, where we've only had our high-risk kids, which is about 3,000 kids of our 40,000 that have even been on campus yet this year. So, and Carla, you want to go from there?
Sure. So talking about the actual marketing, the paid advertising that we do, just like Erin was talking about, we didn't want to push it past November, even though we had that feeling that people weren't really thinking about next year, but we had to jumpstart because we had those other charter schools and other organizations just jumping and doing advertising. So we didn't really want to wait. So we did do some in November. We started a campaign for enrollment, for open enrollment. So we were only focusing on our magnet schools and the open enrollment choices that we had. We weren't really pushing anything else, but that we did. We started doing some TV, radio, print advertising. We did billboards. We did bus shelters, and we tried geo-targeting, and we tried Spotify. And that was one of the new ways that we wanted to get to people and to families. And I think the first open enrollment campaign, we had really good results with Spotify. So once we went into the semester coming back from winter break, we had to think about, okay, we need to start registration now because it starts February 1st. So that's when we switched. We started with registration. And once we started with registration, we changed our ads to include, like Leslie was mentioning, we try to including kids talking, students talking about their school. So we try to do the same thing for the marketing and advertising. So we added pictures of our children. We did a video with one of our students that it's being boosted and shown on all the different social medias as paid advertising. So we just didn't want to miss the timeline that we normally do, even though we had that gut feeling that maybe people didn't even want to hear about it because they weren't in school right now. So who cares about next year if we don't know what's going on this year? We just thought it was too risky for us to not push at least half the weight that we would normally do. And the biggest hit for us was the events, because we rely a lot on the big, huge events that we do in the community. People are really used to our open enrollment events, our school choices event that we do at the museum, at the Children's Museum, etc. So for us, it was really hard to try to, to lose that connection with families. But like Leslie mentioned, the virtual ones really had a great attendance, and we were really surprised by it. And one of the ones that we're starting next week, it's Level Up, and it's for targeting 5th graders. They're going into 6th grade. We did all the virtual tours for those schools, and we have a special website just for the middle schools. So right now we're pushing on that for next week, and we're trying to continue the same timeline, but virtually. And fortunately, it so far has been successful, not in the great numbers, because obviously we're down from the numbers of enrollment that we were last year, but the interest is there and the questions are coming in and the interest is there. So we're hopeful that everything is trying to shift back on our way.
Fantastic, thank you. I've got a few follow-up questions that we'll come back to. So thank you to both of you, and then over to Emily to share about Crichton. Hi.
Guys, good morning. It's so good to see everybody. I feel like I haven't been able to get on these ASPR meetings live. I've always been watching the recordings, and so it's so fun to actually be here and be live. At Creighton, I mean, we're kind of in the same boat. We didn't want to do too much advertising too soon like we've done in the past because it's just within the community, things are a little bit tense. We bring kids back in March. So that's kind of when we were going to hit the ground running, starting this month and then moving into March and kind of going big with our advertising. One of the things that I was going to share is we've been doing a lot through SMORE. It's that online newsletter. And I was introduced to them, I think 2 summers ago at the last in-person NSPRA. And we've just been really building our community through SMORE. We have 5,600 students, and we have close to a 4,000 person reader ship on our newsletter. So we're super stoked about that. And that's just been like a really great way to communicate and then kind of send some marketing things through that avenue. We're going to do a lot of the same things that we do every year. Some of the highlights is we do some advertising through PBS Kids, commercials and web spots, which has been affordable, and I feel like our return on investment has been worth it. We do advertising with our local papers like Arcadia News, targeted mailers to households with kids. So through Info USA, which I think they rebranded this year, I can get the name. I buy mailers, so I buy targeted lists. I get a list every year of all families with school-age children within our boundaries. And then every month I receive new homeowners. So every month I send a welcome to the neighborhood, because even if they don't have children, they'll be our voters. So I try to just say, hey, welcome, would you like to tour our schools, and kind of invite them into the community. We do an individual marketing campaign for each school. We have 9 schools, so it's a little more doable. I know some of the larger schools, it's like, you know, no way. Facebook Live events. And one of the things I'm particularly proud of this year is I've had my eye on a billboard that is literally situated in the parking lot of one of our competing schools. And I have secured that billboard for the next 52 weeks. So hello, Creighton Advertising on their campus. So I know it's a little petty, but I am very proud of that.
Thank you so much, Emily. Someone shared in the comments that Info USA is now Data Axle.
Thank you.
So that's awesome. That targeted advertising is a game changer. I'd like to dive a little deeper into some of the campaigns you were mentioning, and I kind of want to start with the Facebook Live campaign that you were talking about at Tucson. I know that for many of us, our experience of social media this year has been challenging. So I would love it if you could share a bit more about those 10 events that you've done on Facebook Live, how you managed the ability for your community to comment live. I think that would be of interest to everyone. Thank you.
Sure. So I can start, and then Carla, you can help me fill in. So the way that we connect everything is we have our panelists come on to Zoom, just like we are here. And then we then in Zoom, you can link to various platforms, Facebook being one of them. And so then we link it to our district Facebook page and share it there, and then run it live through there so that anyone and we promote the Facebook Live link, not the Zoom link. And then anyone who's watching can comment live. And we have usually at least 2 moderators, one which helps the panelists and stuff. We have some preset questions that they all submit so that we can get those answered. And then the other person reads the Facebook Live comments and asks those questions. Carla, other things?
No, that's exactly it. And one of the things that we were scared is because we usually have all those Facebook comments that are very negative and kind of like, trashing us for one way or another. They'll find a way. And fortunately, during these forums, there were really specific questions, and people were really happy that they had an answer immediately, because we would ask the question coming right from the Facebook comment into the panelist. And so we had like 3 screens going at the same time. But it was actually good. And it turned out to be very positive, and people were really thankful that they could ask the question and then get the answer right there and there. So.
Fantastic, thank you. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Something that a few of you referenced was promoting specific schools. And Erin, I would love to hear your take on whether you feel that promoting the district or promoting schools, whether that feels a bit different this year, and if that's affected how you are promoting enrollment.
Yeah, so that's always kind of an issue in Kyrene. I know every district is different, but I'm sure some of you have districts where your schools are more competitive with each other than even their neighboring schools. And that can happen, especially if you have a large footprint like we do, and you cover a lot of different demographic areas, and there can be school competition that stems from that as well. So what I like to say is, like COVID aside, in any time, every school gets its turn. So like for right now, we put, I'll just be frank and say, when we launched our Kyrene Digital Academy this year, which we built a whole new school to go online and use our own Kyrene curriculum to launch a whole new school with like a month's notice. We put a bigger advertising budget on that than my entire discretionary budget for a normal year. So that required like some district support, obviously, to approve that and make that budget happen. But that was huge because normally you would have like a year to launch a new school, not 1 month. So we did have to put some funding behind that. But also, you know, our Spark program over at one of our schools, Manitas, this is one of those, you know, we tore down the walls and we're doing something different. And it's something that's sometimes hard for people to wrap their brains around because it's not traditional. So probably for the last 2 years and probably the next 2 years to come, that school is going to get a little bit of extra promotion, and then it'll be somebody else's turn and they'll kind of overlap. For this year, we wanted to be able to support every single school because enrollment is down. I'm sure like all of you have seen at every single campus. So what we do every year is we have showcase nights in person, but this year we went virtual as well, same as Tucson. But what was challenging is we've done a couple of the events like the Facebook event where we have the 3 screens open and I have members of my team who are good at that stuff and they know how to keep up with the comments and handle the technology if something goes wrong. But we didn't necessarily have the bandwidth to support 26 individual events for our schools that wanted to do that. So what we did is we tried to keep it simple for our schools. We set some expectations and then we made it our job to drive people to them. We told them they could use Zoom because that's what they know how to use. We didn't try to make them learn a new system. We didn't ask them to simulcast it on Facebook if they weren't comfortable with that. But we said use Zoom, and then we made a page for them where we listed all of the dates and times. And then 48 hours before each event, we posted their link so it would be live, and then we took it down the next day. And we managed that that way because we didn't want Zoom bombers in the room, because that's that scary part of Zoom is if you put the link out there, everybody can, you know, have it and pass it around. So just to try and control that, we timed those so they were never up for more than 48 hours. And then we did some paid advertising that took people to that page so they could select which event they wanted to attend. But we didn't promote any one of those individual school showcase nights over another. But certainly the schools had the ability to do that. And sometimes it's, you can get help if you help yourself. So I had principals reach out and go, is it okay if I put this on this Ahwatukee 411 Facebook group? I'm like, if you're doing it in your capacity as the school principal, of course it's okay. I'm not going to tell you no. If you're taking the initiative, go for it.
Thank you so much. That's all. There's so much great content here. I know I'm taking notes furiously, and if you want to check out in the chat, people are sharing some examples of virtual tours or showcase nights and what that might look like, which I think is really useful for us all, particularly the use of different tools and different promotion techniques. Just as you were finishing there, Erin, another question came, which is around buy-in from principals. I know that principals are exhausted. This has been such a hard year for them, and asking them to focus on enrollment almost feels like too much. So I would love to hear from you, and then from, well, really from all 3 groups here, how you've worked with your principals this year to get buy-in, especially with doing virtual showcases and things that they've never done before.
I think the message that I was in a meeting and visibly saw my principals breathe a sigh of relief was a less is more message. So, I mean, Stephanie, I saw that you put in the chat that Altadena did a beautiful virtual showcase, and they have a principal who's a great communicator who loves social media, and you know her. So, you know, she
came from Queen Creek.
Yes, yeah. She did. And so she's great at that stuff, but I didn't want principals to feel like they have to do that, or they would feel like anything less was a failure. So when we first met, especially with the middle school principals, And we sat down and they were expecting us to do some big video production, similar to what we did for our 8th grade promotions or our retirement ceremony last spring. And I kind of initially thought we had to do something like that too. And then I used those BASIS postcards they were sending me and decided to attend a couple of their events. I attended BASIS Chandler and BASIS Ahwatukee virtual open houses. They were somebody I could tell from the audio standing on a stage, because they did also let people attend, at least the Ahwatukee one, and they ran through slides. And that's all they did. And I'm like, this is an organization that puts hundreds of thousands of dollars into their marketing, and their events were simply, here's our slides, ask us questions. So I went to our principals and I said, that's all you have to do. If you do more, fabulous. But that's all you have to do, is be available to answer questions for parents. And I just saw them go, okay. And then the funny thing is, I think more of them stepped up because they felt the freedom of, I don't have to, but I can if I want to, instead of the pressure of, it better be amazing.
Fantastic, thank you. Emily, how about you working with your principals? Have you seen any differences this year with how they're taking on enrollment?
Yeah, and I think you were right on, like, they're exhausted, we're exhausted, everybody's exhausted, but the decline in enrollment is alarming. So I have actually had principals that I'm usually like kind of pushing the enrollment, marketing type stuff on year after year, that have actually come to me proactively and said, hey, we got to do something. I'm really worried about enrollment. You know, once kids are back, I have no idea what to expect. Families have left. They said they're coming back. Who knows? So that's been kind of nice, because I can kind of take the reins for them, but then work with them on doing some of these enrollment campaigns. And they've been calling families who have left. They've been doing a lot with their front office staff, with we know right now too, with like paraprofessionals and crossing guards and all our essential staff members that are working but are not doing what they usually do with kids not being in school, have been super critical in training these employees to do some of these outreach type things. And so that's been really helpful.
Awesome, thank you. I also noticed that you are doing virtual tours, school tours at Creighton, and I know that's something that a lot of people are doing, and everyone's using different tools. How are you doing those?
Yeah, so we're actually doing virtual and in person in scheduled times, very small groups, social distance and masked, which actually makes it a lot easier without kids on campus right now. So that, there's not people everywhere. We're setting those up for families who do want to come do those personal tours. And then we are also doing Facebook events or little 60-second videos of tours where we just kind of take some B-roll around the campus of like learning spaces and things that you want to highlight that makes, that's the biggest selling points of your campus, with maybe the principal doing a quick 1-minute voiceover. Hey, welcome. We can't wait to see you, contact us for more information. We specialize in blah, blah, blah. So those have actually been really well received too.
Great, thank you so much. Back to Tucson on our tour of Arizona. As well as your Facebook Lives, you mentioned, I'm going to keep coming back probably to virtual, because I think that's something that's very new for all of us this year. And you mentioned about virtual open houses and tours. So perhaps you could share a bit, again, like what tools are you using? How are you engaging with your community for those?
So basically, kind of like Erin mentioned, we talked to all our school principals, and they were responsible to create their own open house virtually on Zoom. They did the same thing. They used Zoom. We did not share the Zoom link. We only promoted it through our district calendar on our website and on our Facebook page event page. And then if they had people interested, then they would share the Zoom link with them. That way they didn't get people from, I don't know where, trying to get in and be like Lance was talking about and be negative, etc. So those went really well. Every school had to do one by the end of January. All of them did it starting before the winter break until after January. So they used Zoom and they did their own. We created the videos in our department. We have 3 videographers and they worked with all the different ones. We kind of made a list of importance by enrollment needs. And if they needed some kind of, a bigger push, we got all the magnet schools, we got all the middle schools, we got a great number of elementary schools, and then that video they showcase on their virtual open house, and then they also have it on their website and on Facebook. We share them; they share them on their own Facebook. So it's been a lot of the social media virtual kind of tools for these a couple of tries that we're doing.
Thank you. For some of the smaller districts and one-person shops that we have in Aspra, I would like to hear, first of all, from Tucson, what do you think, since you actually are quite far along and have implemented quite a few different campaigns using different channels, what would you say has been the most impactful of those campaigns that you've run? That if, for example, a smaller district had to pick one of these campaigns, which kind of brings in measurement, like I don't know, like how you're also, if you want to share, like how you're measuring success with these different campaigns as well, I think that would be helpful too. Thank you.
Sure. So they're all measured a little differently because obviously the reach, if you're doing digital campaigns through local media, television stations, various things like that, the reach is much broader than let's say a Facebook Live. But what we really feel that, our Facebook Lives have been our biggest way to engage our community in the fact that they can get immediate feedback. They hear what you're saying. A lot of times it resolves, rumors that they might be hearing about, either how a certain school or a certain department, what it takes to get your student into and be a participant in that program. So for us, that's been one of our biggest wins. And then I think we also, as Carla mentioned earlier, Spotify was an unknown for us. We had heard some of our competitors and JTED, some of the companies that other schools we partner with, have had some success with it. So we tried it, and we really do agree that based on the number of click-throughs and things that you get from that, that it has really reached and resonated with a group of our, our older, like our high school kids, because they listen to Spotify directly, or also some of our younger families who are listening to it and might, either see our ad or hear about a program, because we have, sometimes some of our departments will go out and create their own spots for Spotify or for a television station. So we work together to say, okay, here is what we're doing. If you want to supplement, just like some of the schools have done and some of the other districts, feel free. We absolutely support you in whatever you're doing.
Yeah. And Stephanie, I know you asked about Spotify, and here locally in Tucson, our CBS station, which is KOLD, they're the ones that offer that. So I'm sure that up in the Valley, you can find which station is the one that offers Spotify, and then they can geo-target to who you want to get to, which is what we did. And going from what Leslie said, that the Spotify and the geo-targeting, I think since you can be very, very specific, I think the money is very, very worth it when you do it like that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Erin, similar question for you. Of the different campaigns that you're running this year and that you've run in the past, what would you say kind of gives the best return, and how do you measure that?
So I love this question because I have like a really strong point of view on choosing marketing that you can measure your ROI. For us, it's Facebook, hands down, and we measure it a couple of different ways. Obviously, we can track the metrics ourselves. We're not relying on a vendor to tell us how we performed, because trust but verify with vendors. If they tell me they drove this many people to our website, we actually go look in Google Analytics and do that count for ourselves. And sometimes it matches up and sometimes it doesn't. But with Facebook, we can see that ourselves, our own tracking. But also when we just look at performance results, we will spend a fraction of the price on a Facebook ad, put a very similar digital ad through like Cox Media on just website advertising, and get more for not just value wise more, but actual more quantity click-throughs on our Facebook advertising than our website advertising. And I think it's largely because Facebook advertising shows up in a stream like all the other content, as opposed to website advertising, which positions either as a sidebar that people's brains have learned to ignore, or banners or pop-ups that people like either ignore or get angry about. So we still do that kind of advertising as well, because I'm usually in favor of anything with metrics. I will dip our toe in that, but Facebook is by far the best. But what's interesting about that is, so when I hear Emily talk about the billboard, and if you have an opportunity to be in your competition's face, yes, you totally want to do that. But how do you measure it? And billboards are expensive. Like that, I always use billboards as my example of that's advertising I don't personally buy, although I can absolutely see the merit in it. I don't personally buy it because it's expensive, and I feel like I'm going to have a hard time being accountable for those dollars spent if I can't prove that they drove traffic. But something I've done is I have an enrollment survey now that when you enroll as a new family into Kyrene, whether in boundary, out of boundary, whatever, if you're new to us, you get a 2-question survey. And the first question on the survey is, how did you hear about us? Please check everything you've ever seen. Newspaper ad, billboard, we saw your booth at an event, etc. So we list our paid stuff, and we also list our stuff that we can't really track. And then the second question is, of those, which most influenced your decision to choose Kyrene? And it's been really, really helpful because we know attending events has real value, because people report constantly that we've only been doing this for 2 years, but we've had a high volume of people saying they saw us at those events. And we've even had people say that's how they made their decision, because they had that face-to-face contact. It also tells us, I think last year we had one person who even recalled seeing our newspaper ad, like on question 1, who even ever remembered seeing it. But we still do newspaper advertising because our local community papers, we want to have a good relationship with them, and we want to have those earned media opportunities, which if you stop doing the paid media might sort of trickle away. So that's really about relationship building, and it's affordable. But yeah, I think Facebook by far, but anything that's digital. And we also do PBS, hard to track, but we include that in our survey, and we see that people recall seeing it, even if it didn't help them make their final decision, they know they saw it. So I really recommend, if you can do some sort of survey like that, so that you can show that things that don't necessarily have trackable ROI are working, that would be a recommendation I would make.
Thank you for that gold, Erin. We appreciate that. And as a Ahwatukee resident who has kids in Kyrene, I see your ads all the time and I love them. So Emily, I would be remiss if I didn't kick it back over to you just to chat about the billboards and also other things, like how you guys track, measure success, and what advice you would give for any campaigns that you think really, give the best return.
Yeah, thanks. I'm actually 100% right on with Erin. Billboards are tough to track. Usually when I spend dollars on billboards, I might do a May, June, July in a very high trafficked area, like on the Indian School corridor, where I know it's going to get a lot of visibility. And then I'm doing it purely in a branding aspect, where people are driving by and they might not be like going to www.creightonschools.org, but they're seeing, oh, Creighton, and they're seeing our tagline, and they're just, it's a more of a, I want to be visible with our brand. But with the billboard on the property of one of our charter schools, that is, to me, is valuable in that anybody who goes to enroll is literally going to see our brand as they walk onto their campus or drive past their school. One of the things that I've thought about too, though, is I hope they don't think that's a Creighton school and then show up. So there's, pros and cons to everything. But if I did have to make a recommendation on where to spend your advertising dollars, especially for communications departments that maybe don't have a ton of dollars to spend for advertising, is that SMORE newsletter. I've this last year, I opened it up and gave a license to every single one of our schools, and our analytics are through the roof. And not only can I see how many people viewed it, I can see for how long, I can see what region they live in. Their back end is amazing. And I think for 10 licenses, I paid like $400 or something, or I'm totally just ballparking a number. It may have been a little more than that, but the return on investment is huge. And for especially during all the pandemic craziness, like that has increased my readership. And now I'm leveraging that readership to market.
I wanted to comment real quick on the billboards. We always been really careful on the spending money because they're so expensive, and you're like, well, we don't know how many cars drove and if those cars looked up to your billboard or didn't. But fortunately, the pandemic gave us really great opportunities on savings for billboards. We worked with Clear Channel, and they gave us an amazing price for group packages on the smaller billboards. So when we got that, we basically were getting 10 of the smaller billboards for the price of one big one. For a 6-week period. So that was we couldn't say no because it was such a good opportunity. So we already done 2 campaigns with that, and they're grandfathering the cost for us. So the reason I'm telling you is maybe you want to reach out to Clear Channel and see if they have anything in your area that can give you that kind of deal, because the deal that we got was we couldn't pass. It was really good, and that will give us the opportunity to be out there. But yes, we are very careful on billboards because you can't track it.
Dawn, can I just add one thing for districts that might have a smaller budget or just able to pick one thing? Please never take the first price. Like when you are talking to vendors about advertising, and hopefully most folks know this, but if you haven't had a budget before and maybe you're new to having a budget like this, never take the first price. Ask about not just discounts for school districts, but what else can they do? If you say no first, vendors will always come back to you with a better price. So never take the rack rate on any advertising. I mean, Facebook's a little different, obviously, because that's, they've got their set prices and they don't take our calls. But vendors that you deal with, actual people, always negotiate.
And they always give you free stuff.
Yeah. I know, Erin, you've got to leave at 10 a.m. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think I can fudge it just a few minutes.
Okay, so I'd love to open it up to questions because I could keep asking questions all day. So I'd love to, if anyone has questions, they can either put them in the chat or they can just come off mute. Matt, is there any questions in there already? I saw some.
Yeah, okay, I will see if Lance wants to unmute. He brought up a couple good points for districts, smaller districts that might not have the budget to do any type of paid advertising and kind of relying on social media and just putting out your enrollment information. So kind of a 2-part question, and Lance can add to it if you'd like, but that's what are some strategies for kind of no budget? And then what happens when the negativity and the trolls start tagging onto your Facebook posts about enrollment? Lance, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I was fortunate in the position that I had before this. It was in the private sector, and I had a $200,000 advertising and marketing and PR budget. And when I moved over here, it was the first time the 2 districts that I worked for through an IGA had a PIO. And so there for 5 years, basically, there have been zero marketing dollars per se. So I relied a lot on free media and social media. And we've tried a lot of the enrollment outreach. And as I put in the comments, what I've noticed with some of the Facebook outreach when we've done that, and social media and website and other things, is the trolls jump in. Oh, the public schools are horrible. Your school districts are horrible. Look at how bad the grades are. And then they turn it into a push for some of the charters. And, you know, nobody likes to use the word competitors. And I know we've got some charters that are in the group. But it puts us in a tough spot because obviously we can't respond to that. So, and then from a billboard standpoint, I just noted in one of the comments, one of our neighborhood charters has put a $1,200 a month billboard up catty corner for one of my high schools and a half a mile from our middle school. You know, I certainly can't justify that. I know what I was paying for billboards at the hospital I was at before this, and unfortunately our outdoor company, Lamar, doesn't have the flexibility that Cox does as far as cutting rates. I've always pushed for value added when I did media buys before, and some are willing to budge and some aren't.
What I can tell you about the trolls is, like I mentioned before, fortunately during our virtual events, we didn't get that, but we get it all the time. You know, we always like, okay, do we really want to post this? Because we know we're going to get 10,000, you know, other comments that have nothing to do with this and then just wanted to hit us. So in our guidelines, we have, and they're, you know, the public can see them and they will know. But what we do is we hide comments that are not beneficial for our district. When you hide a comment, only the person that posted it and their friends can see it. And that way your other families won't see it. So I'm sorry, they won't know you hide them, but you won't be sharing with the rest of your audience those bad comments. So we always are hiding. If we get profanity and we get other, you know, threats or anything like that, obviously we block them, and we give them we advise them, we're going to block you if you don't take that off because of this and that. And, you know, we specifically say not because what you said, but how you said it and the words that you chose. So we get some good use of that, those two guidelines. So I would recommend that you can go and hide those comments. They won't know. Only their friends that are their friends on Facebook and themselves will see it. Other people won't. So that helps a lot.
And we've done that. That just becomes a little labor intensive.
It does.
But yeah.
It does. You have to be on top of it and make sure that you're hiding them. So right now, we do have a person that in our office that just does the social media manager. Unfortunately, I'm taking over that right now because she just had a baby. So right now I'm like, oh my God, it's so much. And I didn't realize how much of these things we have to be on top of and making sure we're hiding. But it's for the better of the district. So I give myself time a day to just go in and search for those trolls. So that's my recommendation, and, you know, keep it up.
Thank you.
We hide as well, but the hard thing, and this is easy for me to see because I'm like not a very sensitive person and I have elephant thick skin. I'm just like not very easily offended. So I try to apply that same feeling toward social media trolls. Is we hide them when we can, but I have faith that 95% of our customers or potential customers are able to see past that garbage and get the information they're looking for. So I try to just not be bothered by it when I see it, and just trust that nobody's going to read a rude, trollish comment and go, oh, I shouldn't go to that district. They're probably going to think, oh, that person's rude. And just having some faith in 95% of humanity just sort of helps me mentally get past those. Harder to get my superintendent past them though.
I really appreciate that take, Erin. I think there's a temptation to just not post anything or not do any advertising for fear of those comments. So I really appreciate putting that lens on it and having trust in the 95%. Any other questions in there, Matt?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of discussion about marketing budgets. And so Don mentioned in the chat that there is a spreadsheet out there. And I think the exec team should come together on this because it comes up quite often when we talk about marketing is budgets. So we will revisit that spreadsheet and look into how we can and get you the answers for that so everyone can kind of have an idea of what other districts are doing for marketing and hopefully use that to your higher ups to say, hey, we need some help here. So Don, if that sounds good to you, we can revisit that and get that out to the membership.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the spreadsheet was originally created to look at staffing for departments because it varies significantly and is not necessarily dependent upon the size of the district. So in that spreadsheet, it does actually have budget as well. And just like Matt said, I think a number of people in ASPRA have utilized the information on that spreadsheet to justify expansion of staffing and potentially budget. And maybe if there's a lot of interest in how to expand your budget or how to pitch for an expansion of your budget, that might be a future topic for us at ASPRA. There's so much there's so many ways to measure impact nowadays, especially with digital advertising, that I think there's a lot of opportunities for telling a clear story to superintendency of your effectiveness. Okay, so we're past 10:03. Any other questions or?
Quick question, Don, that came up about content quickly. Lauren, if you're still on the call, did you want to unmute and just ask your question about content? I want to give you the chance to say hi and ask your question.
Hi, sure. This is not important right at this moment. I know it kind of takes away from what you guys have been focusing on, but perhaps if there was just a way to share what content are you sharing with your prospective parents? You know, I know graduation rates are probably in there and you know, different things, but just curious, are you sharing testimonials in any way from current parents, from alumni? Just curious about that kind of stuff. So again, does not have to be addressed right now. I know this is not the focus, but perhaps maybe something that can be shared with the group in a different way.
I could give one quick answer. And I was trying to actually pull up an example, but I might not be able to do it quickly enough. One thing we did, and it's not overt because we try to have text minimal advertising anyway. I'm a, you know, more white space, less words, and hopefully get them to the website where they can actually take an action that leads to enrollment. So I try to put less in ads, but one thing we did, for example, we were marketing our community education programs at the end of last summer because enrollment was obviously way down. And we started calling it a safe and fun option before and after school. So we built words like safety into our headlines of our ads. And some of those are still there as we're preparing for next year. And we did the same thing for enrollment and they're like escaping my brain, but just subtle things like that is we are promoting the safety aspect without being too in your face about it.
Thank you.
For our videos, we do include testimonials from parents, past students, like from high school and what they did after they left high school, and how that high school helped them prepare for what they're doing. We have students that are in school right now and what, you know, they give us their little testimonial about it, and those have a huge impact. And for words, just like Erin, we've been really focusing on safety, and we talk a lot about family. We try to bring out, because we had sessions with every school, and a lot of the principals and staff from each school talk about how they feel that when kids come and families come into their school, they feel like they belong there and they're a family. So we are really trying to focus on that.
Fantastic. Emily?
It's same for us. We keep our advertising really minimal with the wording, try to use, you know, bright colors that's kind of pop, with the hope that they drive to our website to get more information. And our big tagline is adventurous learning. So anything adventure related that relates to that is usually my go-to.
Wonderful, thank you. And thank you for that question, Lauren. Content is always relevant. Content is king or queen. So
Dawn,
thank you.
there was quite a bit of links posted in the chat to examples and virtual tours, and I'm gonna, I'll make sure to copy that entire chat and get it out to the listserv after the meeting.
I really appreciate that. I think that'll be helpful on many levels. Also as examples to show maybe principals as well, and to support them in understanding what you're asking of them. If you're going to suggest virtual open houses, I know from my experience, it can be a real challenge for them to get their head around what that looks like. So, awesome.
Can I add something? I just saw my list, and when we talk about not using a lot of dollars, but really getting the point of the message across, this year we tried signs on our school buses, and we used it on all our grab and go meals buses, and then we started on the buses that are taking the kids to the learning spaces in schools. So we were promoting different programs like GATE, ALE, CTE, dual language, etc. So the cost for that was very minimal. They're not huge signs, but they look really good on the buses, and it was pretty cheap, and they stay there for a long time. And the buses go in the morning, they go in the afternoon, etc. So that's another good way to spend a little bit of money and get a lot of movement on your advertising.
Thank you so much. A couple of members of our panel are leaving, and I think we've come to a nice natural conclusion. I think there's still so much to talk about, but I would love for everyone to join me in saying thank you to our incredible panel on enrollment. Bravo, bravo, so appreciative. So glad that this has been recorded so that I can watch it again and take better notes. There was a lot of great inspiration in there, and as Matt said, we'll compile those links and those examples and share them with everyone after as well. And similarly, if maybe we'll do it as a spreadsheet, Matt, and then other ASPRA members can add in, you can add in your own campaigns. I'm sure there's many of us sitting here who have other things to add so that we can all learn from each other. Awesome. Okay, so next, bye Erin, bye. Next, we're going to roll into another hot topic for, I guess, all of us right now, which is COVID-19 vaccinations. We thought it might be useful to have a panel for sharing campaigns that are happening to promote these with your staff. So moving into a different group of stakeholders now, which is our teachers and our district and school staff. And we're very lucky to have Danielle Airy with us from, oh my gosh, wait, Peoria? Yes, Peoria Unified. And then also Matt Stamp is putting a different hat on and is going to be talking to us about a campaign that Pima County Superintendent's Office has been doing. So Danielle, would you like to start by sharing with us about this campaign and introducing yourself? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dawn. I'm kind of just reeling. I feel like I have to get my brain to this topic and this audience because that last panel was just so awesome. So just great job, the team that put that together. And I'm scribbling all over half my notes for this panel. So I'm going to weed through some of that to find it. But Danielle Airy from the Peoria Unified School District. And we in Peoria are really fortunate to have an awesome team that kind of helped to come up with this particular campaign to kind of engage our staff. We have been doing a lot of work for what has felt like 6 years, but it's, you know, however many months of this pandemic on the mitigation strategies that are in place. We have been open and have stayed open. And so that has been very important to us. So when there was a new opportunity for an additional mitigation strategy, now the vaccine, which is kind of adding to that toolbox of ways that we can protect ourselves, we kind of refreshed our mitigation campaign and added in this vaccine component. So that's kind of the lens with which we are and have been reaching out to our staff members. We're like right in the thick of it, meaning we are hosting hosting our closed pod for the Peoria Unified Footprint and our staff next weekend. So actually, you all can preview the site that we're rolling out for that today before our staff even get it. We're expected to be able to share that with them here just as soon as we get a link to those registrations. And so if I can share my screen, I can probably bring up some of that to give you a little bit of a sneak peek on what they're going to see. Let's see, share. Let's see if that does it. So this is just kind of a little glimpse if you are seeing that we use Teams. So kind of my own little PD here with Aspera on Zoom. But you can kind of see how we are enhancing our mitigation campaign, and we kind of moved on to this I Got My Shot campaign. And so while I said we have an awesome team, for those districts that don't, that are trying to kind of add in some ways to encourage your staff with this additional mitigation strategy with the shot, there's some really great low budget ways to do that. So I showed we had these signs made, I got my shot. We handed them out to all of our staff. We laminated them. We're using hashtag I got my shot and encouraging our staff to share that. We have our very own Twitter handle just for our staff inside Peoria. And so we are encouraging them to take selfies, to retweet, and to take this sign either with them to the vaccination site, to get a picture or a selfie, letting everybody know proudly that they are kind of doing their part here in the pandemic. And so we've got a couple other components of that I'll roll out and share. And you can see some photos from that Twitter feed that were going around and that we were sharing. Those that were here in the district office could come in and we would take their photo with our Peoria Unified Step and Repeat that we've always got handy and ready to roll for pictures like this. And then just sharing those that our staff were also sharing as they were out and about. I mentioned also, and I can talk more about this here in a little bit, but that's rolling into and right on the heels of this additional campaign, which is our very own closed pod site and how we're kind of communicating that to all of our staff. So kind of a high level overview for you with a few of the components that we're using, but you are catching us right in the thick of it in our site that's going live, hopefully today or tomorrow.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Danielle. I know that from my experience, the communications that I've been sending out to staff about the opportunity to receive the vaccination has been actually a joy because I've been receiving thank yous and nice messages in return. So I'd love to hear, before we move on to Matt, just what has been the response from staff and how are you kind of like, what will success look like for a campaign like this for your district?
Well, that's a great question. And we have shared in your joy, Dawn, when we're sharing out messages and we're getting staff that are writing back and saying, thanks so much for keeping us updated. And again, like I said, it's kind of twofold because up until now, when we're getting ready to host our own pod, it has been sharing all the updates and, they're building as they go as well with the county and the state. So every time we hear that there's appointments open, every time we hear there's a new opportunity, those are just constant messages, sometimes daily out to our staff with an update or a link or, addressing a concern that they might have. And we're coming up with the solution or we're hearing about the solution from the county. And, if you're struggling with your appointment for the second dose, here's how you can do that. And so we're getting a lot of really positive responses back from our staff. I'll say there's been a couple that were sharing either their concerns about the vaccine or feeling like, why are you encouraging this? And for us to have to kind of redirect them back to the source and the research, redirecting them back to the CDC so they know it's not us saying to get this, it's research and science, that we're sharing it, but also making sure they understand it is not required of them in our district and that we cannot force them. We just want to make sure that every single staff member has the opportunity. And so success to us looks like We are using every possible channel to communicate with them, that we're using a frequency that is going to make sure they have the information at their fingertips. But then ultimately, I think we're really going to measure our success by the number of appointments for our closed pod site. So we will be looking very closely at that. You know, the planner and all of us on our team, we're like, where's the link? Where's the link? Where's the link? You know, on the county. And I'm sure those of you who have already hosted sites feel us on that, and the direction that they're giving those host sites on guarding that link and not sharing it too early. And of course, for us to implement our communication plan and the number of touch points we are wanting to have with our staff, we are just anxiously awaiting that so we can be tracking. Our contact at the county is like, you know, loving me. I'm like, can I get that update daily on the number of registrations so that I know and I can adjust our communication accordingly where we need to lean in more with our staff. You know, if we need to kind of insert a new strategy because it's looking like it's lower for a particular day or time, we can kind of adjust on the fly as we need to. So they will be sending those to us, but ultimately that's how we're measuring our success. One quick comment on that, I should have probably noted, once vaccines were open to phase 1B, we did put out a survey to our staff. And it's just a quick little form survey that we are including in the bottom of every single vaccine related communication that we're sending. And it's asking them to give us feedback because again, we can't require them to tell us if they're getting the vaccine, but we're saying you sharing that with us will help us to be able to better communicate our need with vaccines and to be able to better advocate when there needs to be additional resources in our community. So we're asking them, are you planning to get the vaccine? Yes, no, maybe. And we're also asking them if you've already received it or if you're signed up to let us know when, and to let us know if you don't have an appointment scheduled yet. And so that's very telling for us as well. Again, not requiring that, but asking them to share their feedback with us.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Appreciate you sharing all of that. As we are going to hand over to Matt to share about his campaign, I would love it if people, I know that some districts have already posted pods, if you could drop in the comment if you already have, and then also if you have an upcoming pod or anything that you want in relation to this. I know this is kind of a issue that's happening right now, and I know some districts have already done this, and maybe they have things to share with later on with those who have not yet. Matt, over to you.
Thanks, Dawn. So yeah, my name is Matt Stamp. I'm the communications director for the Pima County School Superintendent's Office, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you guys today. A lot of times being at the county school superintendent's office, I'm not in the thick of it at the district level like the majority of you, so I don't know how often things that I can share are applicable, but for this, I feel like it's just a celebration of a group of people, and that's teachers, and that there's strategies that anyone can take away from this. So thanks, Don. Our campaign started a couple weeks ago. The county, we work closely with Pima County Health. They were doing their own campaign about, it was like, don't miss your shot. And so don't miss your shot to stop COVID, to get vaccinated. And it was, it's a good and fine campaign, but it also, what we were seeing at our office was just a lot of frustration with the process of vaccination. People being able to register, where they register, how they register, who gets priority. There was lots of questions, lots of frustration. And then the county health department, they were working with the state on how they could figure that out. And so what we wanted to do was just to change the narrative a little bit on it. And we started to see teachers posting pictures that of their vaccination, and that they were getting vaccinated, and how proud they were, how happy they were to be part of the solution. And so what we wanted to do was just share this with the community and say, hey, educators are getting vaccinated. This is happening. This is a message of hope, and let's just focus on the good, and let's celebrate these educators that are getting vaccinated, and eventually, helping us get back into the classroom. So I will try and share my screen here. So we followed Peoria's lead there, and we started I Got My Shot. Instead of Don't Miss Your Shot with the county, we wanted to focus on, that the vaccinations are happening. This is real. And so we just put out a call on social media and through our newsletter. Please, we see that you're getting your shots. Send us your shots. We want to celebrate you. And it took off pretty quickly. So we started getting quite a few, teachers right away, just sending pictures that they were already taking just for their own personal channels. And they started emailing to us. Shout out to some ASPRA members in this picture here, but we started getting quite a few pictures. And so then it was a matter of continuing to showcase and celebrate our educators that were just excited to be sending us these pictures. Don, I love that you touched on that. That's been my favorite part of this project, is the response from the educators thanking us and just commenting on our channels. Thank you. This was important. I'm just so happy to be part of the solution, and so grateful that I was able to get my shot, and thank you for showcasing. So it's been a really positive campaign for us. And yeah, there's been some challenges that we'll talk about later, but in the end, it's just been so nice to kind of, this whole past year has been so divisive, so much negativity, to just kind of focus on the good and focus on the positive, and see these faces of the educators smiling. It's been awesome. So then we started compiling all the pictures that we were getting, and we made our Facebook cover and our Twitter cover, and just used a simple thing like Canva to make these graphics and to make Instagram stories. Every couple of days we would put out an Instagram story of these educators. And so trying to do whatever we can to get their picture out there and show the community that that things are happening in Pima County and that our teachers are getting vaccinated. One of the most positive things, or that people have appreciated a lot, is we made about really big prints of the pictures, 30 by 40 posters that our print shop was able to do, and on the foam core board, and we lined our windows of our office in downtown Tucson with all the pictures. And that was one of the challenges, is that we quickly have run out of window space for our pictures. So we're going through different plans on how to continue to rotate. But we've had teachers come by and look at their picture, and we've had people walk by and stop and come in and say, "This is awesome. Thank you for sharing this. I didn't realize that all these educators were being vaccinated." And so it's been fun to line the windows downtown and to show, to see the results of that. And then, we're still right in the middle of this, like Peoria, we're kind of going through it. So some recent things that have come about are the Tucson Weekly has done a story on the campaign and on the fact that our office is celebrating the educators. And it was a nice change in the media of what's been out there with vaccinations and the frustration. So that was a good story. We've had world-class prestigious organizations like ASPRA here share our messaging and with their membership. So we appreciate that. We've had other organizations, ADE has shared it, Tucson Values Teachers. And so it really just caught on where other organizations could just share. And, this is a simple campaign of, hey, send us a picture that you're probably already taking and let us celebrate you. So it was easy for groups to share. It's not, if you're a district, you can do it with your teachers locally. With the county, we really wanted to show unity and bring all our schools together, and pictures from across the county. And then we've had teachers, like I said, come up to the window with their second dose and find their selfie and did a selfie of a selfie with their second dose. And so this is a Sunnyside teacher that sent us that. And it's just been a great response from the teachers, and they've really enjoyed it, and they're all in on it. And so that's kind of where our campaign is at, and we're going to keep it going. We're looking into other ways to celebrate, like billboards or an ad in the Arizona Daily Star, and just some other ways that we can continue to get the message across that our educators are getting vaccinated, and it's a step in the right direction to getting kids back in the classroom. I will stop sharing and pass it back to Dawn.
Thank you, Matt. That's phenomenal. Congratulations. And something that struck me, which I would love both of your feedback on, is this is like a good news shift, right? And I'd just like to know how you managed that. Moving from the way that we've been communicating all year into a slightly different tone. Did you, both of you, did you think ahead? Did you consider the tone out there of how it might be received? Or, yeah, just love to hear your thoughts on that. Do you want to go first, Matt?
Sure, thanks. So, yeah, that's really where it started with our office, was seeing the negativity around this and the frustration like we talked about. So we really wanted to change the narrative and share the message of hope. And we knew that we were seeing so much frustration with, the system's down, I can't get my appointment. And so we knew that was going to be a challenge, is that, we put this out there, hey, share your pictures, and that we would get comments. I can't share my picture. I can't get my vaccine. The system's down. There's too many people trying to get it. My district hasn't told me how to get it. So we knew that was going to be there, but to be honest, it's been so much less than we anticipated. The good has just overshadowed all of that, and the timing, I think, was good, because Pima County has now opened more sites and gotten districts more allotments of the vaccine. And so we really just kind of jumped on the positive side of it, and people seem to really catch on to that. And I think, like you said, the timing of it all, there's been just so much negative that people were ready for a positive spin on something. Even if there is frustrations with part of it, they were ready to just be happy for a little bit.
Thank you. Danielle?
Yeah, I can add on to that. I wish I could say we had a lot of time to gear up for this and to plan, but we really didn't. And so, our team just did a remarkable job, totally shifting focus once we were told it was time to roll. We had kind of been thinking about it, but the timing was such where it hit us pretty quickly. And so we had to shift, we had to adjust. It was important enough that it became just our primary focus until we could get things kind of rolling and off the ground. And from there, it has been the majority of our energy. And the positive, as Matt shared, I couldn't agree more, has far outweighed the challenges and the frustrations. I think what has really helped is that because it's been such a focus, we have kind of a generic inbox that we send all of our employee communications from PUSD PR. And Sarah, who I think is on this call, primarily manages that. And what has really helped is just her specific attention to each employee request when it's come in. That kind of customer service of just right away, have you tried this? Can I help you with this? And even if she didn't have the answer, stay tuned, this is coming, kind of that reassurance, because what we had was some staff members who just like that were able to get in, get that appointment, no problem, and then just kind of a polar opposite experience from some of the others. I'll tell you too, to kind of, lend to it, and I mentioned just kind of briefly that it was part, here are the facts of where you can go to get your shot, try this link, try this phone number, and just kind of helping our staff troubleshoot. Part that, and then part trust building campaign. And I'll say we used our superintendent as kind of the lead for a lot of that. So ironically, he kind of right when appointments were available, he went right out to State Farm Stadium. He was able to get an appointment quickly, and we kind of did the whole does that seem like, we don't want it to be like, oh, he's taking a shot from a kindergarten teacher or something, right? But we also needed to lead from example from the top. And he's a new superintendent. He's extremely personable. And so right away he came out, we took his picture, we put it out there. We wanted our staff to know that they were supported in this, and it was something he was doing. I should also mention we had stickers created, and this is just another really great low budget thing, even if you're not hosting, but to kind of go along with the signs that also depending on the color you like. We sent one of these out to every school, but we also sent them a template to print stickers that said, I got my shot. So kind of like I voted. And I saw some of your staff holding some things up, or some of the Pima employees holding those up too, Matt. And they could just print them on just, simple, super low budget, like the laser printers, the labels, just stick some in, here you go. We sent them the file already teed up, put them in your printer, you could print them yourself. So just little things like that to add to the celebration helped. It was a pretty easy shift for us on the tone.
Brilliant, thank you. Challenges, you both mentioned that you did experience some challenges. Daniel, anything that, if any, people here are thinking of doing something similar or are hosting a pod or anything, what are some of the challenges and anything that you would share as suggestions and support?
So, I had a couple planned to share with you since you were kind enough to give me that question in advance, but I'm going to not use it because I'm going to share my recent challenge that came across my desk this morning that I'm working through. And I don't know if any others who have already hosted a pod, and I'm kind of like laser staring at the godfather of PR right now in his little square because I'll be calling him about this later. So here's his heads up. But the pharmacy that we are paired with, which I won't throw under the bus at this time, but I'm kind of touch base with the county. I'm touching base with the pharmacy on kind of our media strategy, because all these celebrations are internal, but we 100% want our community to know we are doing every possible thing within our power to provide the safest possible school experience, and that includes protecting our staff. We are not going to waste this gift that is educators being a priority. That is not the case in states all around the country, in many of them. But here in Arizona, we're grateful that, educators have that opportunity. And so that includes sharing that with the media, which we had planned to do, and we will be doing. But I am currently running into a little bit of a challenge with the pharmacy that we're paired with, which I don't think they handle media as frequently as we do. And so really have pulled out my best persuasion, skills this morning on the phone with their corporate affairs, their public affairs, and just talking them through, we work with the media all the time. We have a great relationship with them. This is how we envision this going. This is how we will protect personal information and HIPAA, and remind them on wide shots and, where they can be and what they can do. And so as part of that, I'm actually, first of all, proactive in reaching out to them, I guess it is a tip to overcoming that. But secondly, kind of having to use some of those persuasive skills and she's followed up now. I'm looking at my other screen with an email saying, can you meet me out in the site and talk me through how you envision this going? Of which, part of me wants to be like, trust me, I got this. Like, we do this all the time. But the other side of me knows that I think is going to go a long way in building the trust. So I guess it's being mindful of the other partners that are involved in this as well. But I made it really clear to her, kind of holding my ground, that it's really important to us to share this with the media. And so we want you to have a comfort level in that. And so we will, work to your comfort level. If you don't want us to mention you, no problem. But if you want to come along with us in this celebration, here's how we can do this in a safe manner, and that's respectful of kind of the boundaries that you have in place. So that's kind of the latest challenge that I'm tackling, because once we've kind of gone through all this celebration with our staff and how you can partake in this and be a part of it, it's also really going to be important to us to pull in that media component, make sure our community knows that we're doing all that we can here.
I love that. And I'm going to invite, Terry, if you don't mind, Mr. Locke, as an honorary panel member. I know that Chandler, you have run a pod a couple of weeks ago, was it?
Yeah, let me get unmuted here. We did. In fact, we're gearing up for phase 2 right now. In terms of the media question, we didn't get as much because Phoenix Union preceded us the week before, so it's kind of a new thing. And so we got a little bit. There were a couple shots that ran very short blurbs and so forth. But the only thing I would add in general is that if you're going to host a pod, it's extremely time consuming. And it's true that 95% of the people that respond to you are so appreciative to be in a kind of an exclusive class, if you will. But you're going to get a lot of one-off questions, a ton of them, from I can't be there that day, or I'm not eligible. Can I send my husband instead, or my daughter, or my father, or whatever the case might be? And you get a little bit of replies where the answer is actually in the original content of what was provided. But it's been very rewarding over here, and we're gearing up for phase 2, which is going to be a little bit of a wrinkle for people because they can't pick their times. So we're going to roll that out next week. But what will happen is Albertsons and Fry's will communicate directly with them and assign them a time. It should mirror the one from before, but March 6th may be different than it looked like on January 30th for our first group. So we'll deal with a few of those wrinkles, but overall, it's been a really good opportunity.
Wonderful, thank you so much. If people do want to put in the comments, I don't know how many districts are hosting pods. So I think it's and I know that probably each communications department has a slightly different role in the hosting of those pods. So just to know that this is something that many of us are going through, and if there are people watching this who are and have questions, please feel free, as always, to reach out to fellow ASPR members. I know that, as Terry said, Phoenix Union and Chandler have already hosted, and there may be others out there. Okay, passing over to Matt, I'd love to hear about any challenges that you experienced, probably including the short timescales to get something off the ground.
Yeah, and I want to echo what Danielle said about Arizona. So there's if you listen to the daily podcast from New York Times, there's one this week on reopening schools, and only about 50% of the states are prioritizing educators. So Arizona is in a good spot with this, where we are one of the states where educators can get vaccinated. It's, you know, not a high percentage of people are getting vaccinated. So when we were talking to our superintendent about this idea and our program directors at the office, and just saying, hey, we want to celebrate this, everyone kind of echoed it and said, because we work with some other countries as well, and one of our program directors said that, you know, the other countries couldn't believe that we were getting vaccinated. They don't have vaccinations in their, you know, in the future that they know of yet. So it's just trying to remind people this is, you know, a blessing and a good thing that we have this available to us. And so let's celebrate it. One challenge that I did want to bring up, that if anyone decides to do something like this, that you will probably go through, I'll try and share my screen again. So you'll see this picture right here. A lot of the teachers started sharing their vaccination cards, and they have some private information on them. They have the full name, they have birth date, and then and some teachers would block out their name or their birth date, but still send the rest of the card. And on the card, there's a little thing that says what lot you were in, your vaccination was in, the date. And so there's just some issues there with privacy and putting them in, you know, in our windows and sharing them. And especially we heard a story on the news about scammers using some of this information that they would find on Facebook when people were just sharing them through their own channels and not blacking anything out, that they would somehow use their information to book an appointment, or they had everything they needed. So privacy was a big thing, and making sure that I went through each photo before printing or before posting online, at least on our end, that I was blocking out or blurring any of that private information. So that's just something to keep an eye on. And if you are just kind of retweeting or sharing from your district, just to make sure that we aren't adding to that problem. And I guess there are scams going on with it. So be wary of that. A lot of teachers blocked it out on their own, or held the sticker over the information, or just used their stickers. So it's not a huge problem, but something to be aware of. And then I think, you know, as far as the timing goes, it was pretty easy for our office to throw it together. And as we all know in this business, collaboration is key. And so, if it wasn't for collaborating, it wouldn't have gone like it's going so far. For instance, my fellow school PR folks down here in Pima County, I just reached out to them and I said, hey, please share this with your districts. We're trying to gather photos from across the county. And, the next day I was getting dozens and dozens of emails from Sunnyside and TUSD and Sahuarita and Tanque Verde and all the districts. And I realized, okay, they put it in their newsletter for me. They shared it on their social media. It was not, difficult for them to do. And so it was just nice to have the support of my fellow colleagues down here to share it with the districts and get more photos that way. And then we also worked closely with the health department, because everyone's kind of going to the health department for information right now. So they had meetings with superintendents and they would share it out that, hey, share your teacher pictures with Matt at the county superintendent's office. So that collaboration was a key part of it, of just being able to collect the amount of photos that we did and get the word out, because the districts certainly have a lot bigger reach for their communities than our channel. So I appreciate that.
Dawn, do we have time for me to share just one more quick challenge while we're kind of on this topic?
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, I'll be brief, but as Terry mentioned, it is a tremendous undertaking if you host a pod site for a region or your district or your footprint. One of those challenges within the hosting is you are required to secure volunteers, depending on the size of your district and how many shots you're given. For us, it's about 80-ish to 100 volunteers per day. Kind of our first thought was, well, I'm sure we have many staff members that this is just kind of right in their wheelhouse to do this, and we trust them and we know they can kind of handle the check-in and things. But we decided to kind of open that up to some of our community partners, and in particular, some of the, we have a faith council that meets. And so we've got some really great relationships with some local faith-based groups in our community, as well as our education foundation. And so we opened it up to them, and kind of an awesome part of volunteering for this is you get the shot. And so, we wouldn't want to fill those volunteer positions with people that are already eligible to receive the shot. I want those people to go make an appointment and just drive through and get the shot. We want to fill those volunteer positions with other people within our community that should, they will eventually get the shot, but this will kind of speed it up for them. Maybe they're not in that 65 or older timeframe. Plus, it's just so often that you go to your community and you ask for something of them. Can you donate to this? Can you sponsor this? Or, we need help with this. And so to be able to offer something to them, to say, hey, come on in, come help us out, but then you also get the vaccine. That has been really huge for us as kind of a nice goodwill gesture to open up to partners in our community. And they have been very grateful for that. So it's kind of a great way to meet that challenge.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Danielle. I'm going to open it up now to questions to see if anyone has any questions for Matt and Danielle. Maybe Terry, if you've got a pod question. I don't know if anyone else is on here that's already hosted one. You can come off mute or put it in the chat box. I'm going to look and see. I know there's been a few comments in here. Apparently Matt's window was all over Twitter last week.
I'll just say that, Danielle, when I saw that poster online, I thought, oh man, I wish I had that idea. It was so fun and cute. So congratulations on just being so creative. And we did invite all of our staff members to share their fun photos with us. And then when they came back, it showed the lack of diversity in our staff. So we were reluctant to spread all of these photographs of white women all over our social. So I'm wondering if anyone has feedback about that.
That's a really interesting one, Shelley. And that's a, I would say that's a opportunity that we see through so many of the things that we do with our staff right now. Obviously, with students, you have kind of the to control, to go out there and make sure you're getting a diverse, collection of photos or video or things when you're producing things. But when you're relying on the community to do that, I would say to that, we are actively working right now on the diversity within our staff and to make sure, we just kind of have a laser focus there. Right now, it's an area where we really could be better. And what I would say is to rely on your principals. And we talked a little bit in the first panel about how inundated they are right now and how overwhelmed they are, but they have such a great relationship with their staff. So using them to kind of funnel that information and to encourage all that are going to submit those photos. What you wouldn't want to have happen is those that who are diverse among your staff, that they're not sharing their photos and their pictures. So to make sure anybody feels encouraged to do that everyone feels encouraged to do that, even those on your workforce that may be underrepresented.
Thank you for that, Danielle. I think that resonates with certainly something that I've experienced this year has been if schools are sharing content that I'm concerned may go either way, it's much less negative, the response, than if the district's sharing it. I don't know if that's helpful to anyone, but anything that's kind of borderline, as in people may see this through a lens of an opportunity to attack the district. If the district shares it, they take that opportunity. If schools share it, it's a completely different tone and response. And then with regard to sharing the picture that's not representing diversity, I did something similar with pictures. It was National Principal Day, and took a picture which included all of the principals, and it did represent the fact that our principals are not diverse. However, it also started a really important conversation within the district, within the community, about, well, what can we do about that moving forward? So I don't know if that's helpful, but in sharing it, it did start positive conversations for change. Any other questions from anyone with regard to this? Appreciate all of you. I know there's been a lot of information shared, a lot to process and digest. Thank you, a huge thank you to Matt and Danielle. If you could join me in thanking them for sharing their experience, and it's definitely timely. I know it's something that many of us are experiencing. So thank you so much. Stephanie, are you back? I know Stephanie was ducking out for another meeting and then returning. She's still on the call, but I don't know if she's actually there.
Hi. Sorry, let me go ahead and mute her.
Not sure what that was, but it wasn't Stephanie. So first of all,
oh no, it wasn't Stephanie. This is actually her videographer. She's not back yet. She's still in a meeting. So okay. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you for letting us know.
Of course.
Matt and I can close out this meeting, I think. First of all, just a huge thank you to all of our panelists. As Stephanie mentioned at the beginning, we will be having a virtual conference this year. Matt and I are really excited to be working with other board members to make this a worthwhile and high value experience for all members of ASPRA, and we have a lot of exciting things in the works. So there will be more information to follow. We also are planning on hosting next month a additional meeting in addition to the other quarterly meetings that we do, that will be solely tailored around networking and checking in. So we won't have presentations or panels, but it will be an opportunity for those members of ASPRA who'd like to jump on, see each other's smiling faces, we'll maybe get into breakout rooms and have some focused networking on different topics. This year has been an eventful one. I keep saying this year, it's now a new year. You know, it's I don't know if this year still counts, but we're really cognizant of the importance of ASBRA for all of us, even more so during these times. So look out for more information to come about a March virtual gathering. Also, we will be sending out after this meeting, like we always do, the link to the recording, which will be hosted on the ASBRA website. And as Matt mentioned, we'll share probably a spreadsheet with a lot of the resources that came up today so that we can all share and be inspired. Matt, do you have anything to add before we close out this meeting?
Just thank you to everyone for being here. We really appreciate taking the time to join us. And like Don said, we know this past year we've missed out on a lot of what ASBRA is, and that's getting together and that's connecting in person and just getting to talk to each other and hear how things are going. So that is kind of, the point of March's get together that we'll send out is just a chance for us to talk, since the quarterly meetings are kind of filled with content. We want a chance to hear from you guys and just connect. So we look forward to that. We'll send out the information. April will be our last quarterly meeting of the school year. That should be the second Friday in April, and we'll get a save the date out for that. And if you have any presentation ideas or topics that you want to hear on, please email Don and myself. We're in the listserv there. You can find our emails. Please let us know what you want to hear. We're planning the April meeting, and then of course we're planning the summer conference, and we are building the presentations now. So we would love to find things that you're interested in. So send us a quick email on that, and definitely for June, save the date, June 10th. It's going to be it's different this year, but we're going to have a conference, which is good. Last year we weren't able to have one. So we will have a virtual one day, and we look forward to a great event. And so I think that's it from me. I did want to share one last screen here of our buddy Zach Fountain there with his new baby. So that's baby Henry, and that's Zach. And he texted me earlier, and he's missing us, of course, in Zach fashion. But he's happy and just says hi to everyone. So wanted you guys to get a chance to see that. I think that's it from me, Don.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Matt. Congratulations to Papa Zach. And thank you to all of you for joining today. We hope you got something out of this, and we appreciate all of you. And special thanks to our panel members who really showed up for us all today and did a phenomenal job. Happy Friday, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and let's keep connected. Thanks all.
Valentine's Day.
That too.
Thank you, Don, for hosting. You're awesome.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for being with us.